There can be only one.
Oh, you know the music. Oh, you feel the vibes. Oh, you know the energy. It is time. The calendar has turned. It is January, which means it is playoff football. Now, we don't know what that really means here in Chicago. I'm the Sports Cubicle. It's Devin Tingle. I'm Mike Mercado. He's Paul Chivari. But normally in the NFL, come January times, a select number of teams get to play more football in something that's called the postseason. And if you win enough games, you get to go somewhere called the Super Bowl. And this year, the Super Bowl is played in Las Vegas. And two teams will get to decide who wins something called the Vince Lombardi Trophy. So it is going to be, I know, Chicago fans, it's a very interesting and crazy theory, but I promise you it happens every single year. And we're here to make our predictions. It is one of our favorite times in the sports calendar. And I want to kind of throw it to you guys really fast before we start making predictions, previews, and seeing how this all shakes out. I always think the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, Super Wildcard Weekend like we have upon us, and the conference championships in the NBA are among some of my favorite things. I even love the wildcard round in baseball. I just love the idea of tournament. Where do you rank the NFL Super Wildcard Weekend amongst your sports calendar fandom, Devin?
Probably up there at the top. Let's be real here, because we all know the Super Bowl is pretty much I think it's the most watched championship out of all of them. Granted, it's one game as opposed to everyone else needs a minimum of at least 4 here. But it's just kind of interesting because I think the big thing about football is, like, if you miss one playoff game and you miss seeing those two teams play in the playoffs, they only have one game. And, of course, with it being one game, it's a lot easier to watch and keep up on as opposed to sometimes it's like, oh, yeah, I missed game 2 of the NCAAs last night just because has stuff going on. So I would probably put this at number 1 top overall out of all my championship or wild card weekends. I'm sorry.
Paulie, I know you watch a lot of international sports, and there's a lot of cool tournaments. I don't know what the equivalent of this would be in EPO, if there is something like this.
Like the Champions League, I think. You know, you get sometimes it comes down to one game, but they really have the home and home. But when it's like, you get one shot at it. It doesn't matter who you're matched up against. You got one crack to beat them. And I like that because I think in some years you see it goes a certain direction and you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Or you see the team get complacent. Like everybody will remember the Houston Oilers having that huge lead on the Buffalo Bills and ended up losing that game back in 30 years ago. Anything can happen in the playoffs. And then we talk about the champions year to year. They truly are, when we look back, for the most part. Well, yeah, that was the best team this year. It wasn't just the best team for the last 4 weeks of the season. But sometimes you get those too, the team that they battled all year long. And it's like, no, we truly were the champions. We had to figure some things out, or we were road tested. But when you threw us into the pool with the rest of the good teams, we proved that we were the strongest. So I like the matchups when you look at all of them this year, because I think there really isn't a clear favorite. I mean, you could point to the chalk and the top 2 in each. Every year it seems like that anyway. But the games need to be played, and the matchups look good in the wild card. And if we see certain upsets in the first round, that will create certain matchups in the divisional round. It could go any way. I really don't think, though, it's not a year where Mahomes has a clear shot at it. It's San Francisco always looks good, but they're kind of a wild card going into what I think like a second Super Bowl with a different quarterback than the one they had last time, and it seems like every year it's a different story. I don't know. I like what I'm seeing this year, and I'm hoping that the way it plays out is going to be interesting and not any blowouts.
That's a big thing too, right? Very competitive games, and I think that's the vibes we want to see going on from this entire tournament, is a good start to a strong finish by the time we get to February. But I want to read this really fast. This is from ESPN staff. The 6 matchups for the wildcard round of the 2023 NFL playoffs are set, with the Cleveland Browns at the Houston Texans as the first matchup of the weekend. The San Francisco 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens are the number 1 seeds in their respective conferences and earn byes through to the divisional round. Wildcard weekend will feature games on Saturday, January 13th, Sunday, January 14th, and Monday, January 15th. So we still have a Monday Night Football game to go through. So we're going to look at some of these matchups, and we're going to make our predictions. Paulie is going to keep track of it. We're going to see how close we came to actually getting the right pick. Let's get into it. Why don't we start in the NFC? The Green Bay Packers at the Dallas Cowboys. This is a Sunday matchup. It is 3:30 time here, local in Chicago on Fox. The number 7 seed Green Bay Packers, the number 2 seed Dallas Cowboys. I'll go first on this one. I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers heading into Dallas and winning this game. I think Dallas has a lot of offensive power. I think they're a team that if they lean on CeeDee Lamb and if they let him go open, especially if he's just running up the middle and you're not tackling him, he's going to have 2 touchdowns, 150. He's going to go nuts. I think the question comes down to, can you contain Tony Pollard? Can you make him one-dimensional? Can you make Dak Prescott have to beat you? And Green Bay has a defense that can get carved up. We've seen a lot of teams, including Carolina, not the Bears, but we've seen certain teams be able to put it on the Green Bay Packers. But I think they're on a run. I like what I see from Jordan Love, so I'm going to go with the Packers winning this matchup.
Wow.
Pains me to say that Jordan Love is better than I thought he was because he was complete garbage in those, 2 or 3 games he had to play last year. I am going to push back against Mercado. I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys here. Yes, Dak Prescott started off terrible in the beginning of the season. Yes, he is known to choke in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, you did mention they have Tony Pollard. He is a younger, much better version of Ezekiel Elliott, and that's definitely filled that huge hole. He was phenomenal last year. I think he's even better this year. And again, as we saw with the Packers, was it their defense was phenomenal against the Bears last night, on Sunday afternoon? Or was it the Bears offense just played like crap, and Matt Eberflus thought this was week 1 again? I don't know. So I'm definitely going to pick the Dallas Cowboys over here, and I think nothing would be sweeter than seeing Mike McCarthy, the man I hated for years, eliminate his former team from the playoffs. Only thing that will make it better is if Aaron Rodgers are still there.
I got to go with Devin on this one. I think Dallas Cowboys, and I'll sum it up really quick. It's hard to win in Jerry World if you're not the Cowboys. They've been playing really hot this year. Everybody's healthy. I think they've been a battle-tested team this last few years. Usually we laugh at them and mock them for how they're always losing out. And, last year they won their first-round game, so I think they can do it again this year. Let's see how far they get, though. But I like where you're thinking, Mercado, though. I think don't sleep on the Packers, because when I was picking this one originally, I was like, yeah, Cowboys, no way. And then I was like, well, now wait a minute. And then that would set up an interesting matchup with Packers-Niners in the second round, but I think Cowboys all the way.
The Packers.
Yeah, I think all the way it's Cowboys.
I will say Tony Pollard, been a little rough for him to get into the end zone, so it'll be interesting to see if, again, you make them one-dimensional. Can Dak Prescott score 3 touchdowns and not give the ball the other way? Now, to me, the sleeper game of the entire weekend, I think a lot of people, by the end of it, are going to make this the game of the Super Wildcard weekend, but it is the number 6 Los Angeles Rams heading into Detroit to take on the number 3 seed Detroit Lions, and it is Matthew Stafford, it is Jared Goff, it is 2 teams, one team that had the expectations, one team that did as well and didn't have a hot start to the season and found their way after winning a bunch of games, and they're getting hot. Puka Nacua has been a revelation as a rookie. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is a superstar for the Lions. Gibbs has emerged. This is my most anticipated game. Sunday night, 7:15 start here in Chicago on NBC proper. I'm going to go with the LA Rams.
Same. I'm doing Rams. And I love the storyline, though. Let's not bury the lead. It's Stafford going back to Detroit.
It's unbelievable.
And Detroit's first playoff game at home in 30 years. The quarterbacks being flip-flopped with Goff being a former Ram. I love it. And the Rams they've been just dogs all year. They've been just a team that's been in almost every single game they've played. They've had a few upsets this year, played tough. Even though it was a garbage time game yesterday against the Niners, they still win that game.
With a lot of their reserves. A lot of their guys weren't playing. Shout out to Kyron Williams as well, who's been, Cooper Kupp, who's been injured, and he's kind of emerged too. It's a nice team.
A great coach in Sean McVay.
Shout out to Sean McVay.
The Lions, though, are looking good down the stretch, too. And, it's if they're going to win, they're going to have to use Sam Laporta.
Who got hurt? Who we saw him get hurt
I was gonna say,
on Week 18.
But now, is he, how bad is he?
We're going to find out as they practice throughout the week, and that's going to be
because he was already, I
interesting
think, hurt going into the week.
And we won't know until Sunday night, so all you bettors, it's going to be a little bit tough to find out, but I think that's an interesting one.
But I hope we didn't sway your pick if you picked Lions.
Well, I do want to defend the Lions a little bit here because I've been saying before, Jared Goff is the quarterback for that system. I think in Detroit, he is a better quarterback than Matt Stafford was in Detroit. But as we did see yesterday, with Carson Wentz as the Rams starting quarterback, they pulled off a win against the 49ers, who are the number 1 seed in playoffs altogether here. I would love to see the Lions get this next win, but I got to go with the Rams as well.
I think it's just going to be funny that Matthew Stafford finally gets a playoff win in Detroit. it's going to be for Los Angeles. We move on to the final NFC matchup of the wild card weekend. The number 5 seed Philadelphia Eagles at the number 4 seed Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This will be Monday night at 7 p.m. locally here in Chicago on ESPN, ABC, ESPN2, and ESPN Plus. I think this game is one of those two limping dogs walking in. Tampa Bay, they had the heart. Baker Mayfield, you got to give him the credit. He's been broken. He's been chewed out and spit out throughout this league, and he found a way to take a team, had a heroic game in Green Bay that got him into the playoffs, in that position to be in the playoffs and win the NFC South. Philadelphia, just another trend of a Super Bowl loser having a tough time bouncing back. I'm going to go with Philadelphia still winning this game. We have to find out what's going on with Jalen Hurts and that fractured finger, if it's fractured. It's tough to win in Florida in January, cold area to warm area, especially with this cold front coming. And if A.J. Brown is playing, if Devontae Smith is playing, if the running game will get going, I got to go with Philly.
Now, this is one that I remember when I was writing this down, I was staring really hard. I'm like, this is a tough one to pick here because Baker Mayfield, I've been saying he's not as crap as everyone says he was. His numbers are roughly the same as Deshaun Watson. Just Watson sat out a bunch of years because he's a big crybaby. Moving on. My big thing is the Eagles were definitely, if you would have asked me, you would ask me, 5 weeks ago, Eagles over Bucks in the playoffs. Eagles hands down. But we have seen a little bit of them slowing down. And if Hurts is going to be hurt, no pun intended, that might play a big factor, but I think I'm going to stick with my pick and say Eagles here.
What you got going on Monday night on the NFC side, Paulie?
Same thing as you guys. It's got to be Eagles. I mean, I know the Buccaneers are a tough team, battle-tested in the NFC South, but it also is the NFC South, and somebody had to win that division. I think the Buccaneers are a tough team, but if I remember correctly in my prep for this, they're the team that hasn't played a tough team at home and won in a long time. I think it was either earlier this year or before this season. So Eagles are going to be tough, even though they're limping in. They've been struggling lately. That's a team that's been battle-tested, playing a tough schedule down the road here. They have something to prove. They want to get back to the Super Bowl. It's going to be a long, tough road for them, but it starts with a Monday Night Football win.
And, of course, the San Francisco 49ers are the NFC number 1 seed and have a bye in Super Wildcard Weekend. Heading into the divisional matchup, they will have their date with Destiny. Let's go to the AFC. Fun AFC matchups, an entire fun Super Wildcard Weekend. The number 5 seed, the surprise, Cleveland Browns at the number 4 seed, Houston Texans. It is the senior citizen in Joe Flacco re-emerging and like a phoenix, bringing his career back, a chance for another Super Bowl with the rival Cleveland Browns, the rookie C.J. Stroud becoming a truth in this league. We'll see what destiny lies. A Saturday game, 3:30 p.m. local time in Chicago on NBC. I will be going with the Cleveland Browns.
Okay, Mercado, sit your ass down. Joe Sanity, Flacco Mania, we see it. He's gotten his 3 weeks. He is done. When it comes to facing real teams in a real situation, he's done. Yeah, Tim Tebow had one playoff win during the whole Tebow Mania era. But here's the thing. Let's take a look at who Joe Flacco faced. Garbage teams. He had 3 touchdowns, almost 400 yards against the Bears. Bears are friggin' garbage. Okay, let's take a look at the Houston Texans. The second worst team, almost the worst team last year. They go and get the second overall pick. Turns out Bryce Young was not the answer. It's this kid C.J. Stroud. And they've been phenomenal. They're going back. They're going to sit that senior citizen down, back on his ass, and then mark my words, when the Browns are like, we're done with you, Chicago Bears are going to be like, hey, we saw what you did in Cleveland. We're going to sign you, draft no quarterbacks in the draft, and Paul's Raiders get Justin Fields. How's that sound? So Houston all the way.
Wow. Paul, who do you have?
No.
I've got the Browns. I think that... Flacco, serviceable quarterback, veteran.
It's just because you guys both have mustaches, admit it.
Yeah, that is part of it. It's a good argument, Devin, that he hasn't really played any tough competition down the stretch here, so we don't really know. And the last time these two teams played each other, the Browns did win, but it was without C.J. Stroud. So we don't really know what this matchup truly is going to look like for... the way they line up against each other. It's what's funny is I wanted to go back and be like, yeah, they're division rivals, and it's like, no, that's an old division. This is a different Houston
division?
Team.
Where is Cleveland and Texas in your same division?
You don't remember the old AFC Central?
I'm giving you stuff.
Show your age. Showing your age.
Yeah.
At your age, mama, not your shoe size.
But yeah, I just think they match up well against each other. But I like the defense of the Browns beating C.J. Stroud and the Texans. But I think this is going to be a really good one. And it was tough to pick this one, but I got to go Browns. touchdowns.
The most unusual one of the entire playoffs. The number 7 Pittsburgh Steelers, all Mike Tomlin, and some of that defense. And the number 2 Buffalo Bills. I mean, it's easy. Buffalo wins this game. This is Sunday at noon on CBS here in Chicago. Yeah, Josh Allen. This was the reason why Miami and Buffalo were looking for the win or the tie. It was to get this matchup. So Buffalo wins. Devin?
Now, I don't want to just be plain and be like, this wins, but let's just take a look at kind of the Bills lately. Josh Allen has kind of been slipping. He's lost his receivers, and Gabe Davis, who was one of his favorite receivers, just forgot how to run a route. I guess he went to Chris Conti's house, and they had a little tea party, and it gave all that ability to follow how, that arrow means forward. Okay, I'm going to run circles 6 times. I'm going to say Bills because let's be real here. The Steelers with, is it Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky, or is it the kid who bagged groceries for me at Jewel last week? But I got to go with the Bills. It's just Steelers made it. They're the Bears in 2020. They made it on a whim and a prayer.
They have Steph Diggs, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. Like, they had James Cook. Like, they have been playing pretty good. And their rushing game has been good. I think Josh Allen went 30 for 38, 359 yards and 2 touchdowns against Miami. Who you go with?
I'm going to the Bills. I think it's clear. It's clear.
All right, let's go.
Devin, you said Bills, right?
Yeah, I said Bills.
All that hate just to pick the Bills.
To be fair, the Bills have had a few. We look at last week; they've had a couple bad weeks kind of in there.
I will say a case for the Steelers, though. So this is almost in every given playoff since they've expanded it to 7. There seems to be a team that goes in kind of kicking and screaming because we have to have 7 teams there. And this year the AFC was that conference where it's like, well, someone's got to be the 7th seed. Yeah. And good on Mike Tomlin, though, which a month ago everyone would have said, oh, it looks like it's his first losing season and a million years in Pittsburgh. And he still found a way to finish strong. So don't count that team out ever. But I mean, come on, this man. And then at Buffalo, hard to win at
Mason
Buffalo.
Rudolph.
And with the weather that they're supposed to have this weekend.
No
so
way.
yes.
Yeah, and we would love Mike Tomlin.
All Bills.
Final
just sell
game.
Some extra jerseys.
A very interesting matchup. Saturday night's main event. It is Saturday night at 7:15 local time here in Chicago on Peacock. The number 6 Miami Dolphins at the number 3 Kansas City Chiefs. Miami, it was a glorious season. There was so much excitement, all the fireworks, and it ends against a struggling, bad Kansas City Chiefs. But I refuse to pick against the Chiefs until it's over. And guess what? It is going to be 1 degree in Kansas City. I'm going Chiefs. Paul.
Same thing. I'm going Chiefs. The Dolphins have just been kind of slipping lately and not really playing as the impressive football that they played earlier in the season. Mahomes is hurt, but the Chiefs have something to prove, especially with the way their season kind of fell apart. I can't pick against Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce at Arrowhead Stadium. That's just a really dumb thing to do. But I think as the tournament progresses, we'll see the Chiefs have a little bit of a struggle, but not this week against a chilly Miami Dolphins.
Now, this was another one that is a little bit hard for me because, as Paul knows, the Chiefs lost to the Raiders of all teams. I'm not saying your Raiders are bad. In their last regular season game, Chiefs put up 13 points, won by 1 point, literally the skin of their teeth, the hair on their chinny chin. And Patrick Mahomes has definitely not been the Patrick Mahomes he's been. And if you ask our manager down there, he'll blame Taylor Swift for all that. It is very hard to go against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs because he's been pretty good, but again, he's on his, 4th, 5th season? We don't know how he's going to play in every playoff he's been in. But if the NFL is rigged like they say it is, if there's a story to be told, then Taylor Swift's over there at Arrowhead Stadium. I'm picking the Chiefs because they just want to get as many women watching as possible.
It's going to be a great Super Wildcard weekend. And now that we've made our predictions for Super Wildcard weekend, it is time to put our feet to the fire. It is time to pick our Super Bowl matchup and our Super Bowl winner. Paulie, who do you have in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl?
I got the Ravens and the Rams. Ravens are going to be lifting the trophy.
Devin?
Just because I don't want to copy Paul, I'm going to say Ravens versus Dallas. And yeah, I agree with the Ravens are going to win.
I have the Baltimore Ravens losing to the San Francisco 49ers in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl.